here at the court, and I'm here with Brett, who is a new client in our software company, Real Estate Lab, and we're just walking around the property here, and we were just talking about how this Class A, in my opinion, probably one of the nicest Class A properties I've been in. I mean, they're telling me in the lobby that just the front desk, they spend $30,000 on just the tile behind the front desk.
Wow.
Like some of the doors are like $15,000 glass doors. I mean, they just like completely went over the top. Big institutional. I think they're maybe New York based, private equity. I mean, we were talking earlier about like trophy assets. That's a trophy asset. Mm-hmm. Prime location. Mm-hmm. But for me, like, that's my next door neighbor, which is kind of nice. We have a piece of land dividing us that actually they don't own, the church owns. What's cool is like these properties here are zoned. I could go up probably 70 feet, like kind of like
wow.
what they did, right? So eventually, that's my goal with this, is like hold it forever, and then one day maybe knock it down and go up and build. But you know, I'd probably have to do a deal. Like the church owns all this land, so maybe there's a play for me to, you know, maybe buy something like that land next to us and then eventually build up. So we came in here, and this was just a overgrown grass yard. I think it's built in the 70s, just C-class. If you saw this beforehand, I mean, it was like green, it was ugly, it was a really rough tenant class.
It looks really nice now.
Yeah, it's come together. So we did like the siding, new roof, new parking lot. We'll show you the interiors in a sec, but like we spent, I think probably back here, it's probably like 100,000 doing this.
Really?
Clearing it, the turf. The turf alone was probably 40,000 to like level that
I'll bet.
perfectly and then roll out the turf. I think the material alone was like 12 or 13,000.
Wow, that's great. About
40 for the court, so. But yeah, just wanted to create like a cool space, and you know, I'll come out here and use it with friends, and it's just like it's just hard to find a good, you know, pickleball court around town. Well, I like pickleball. So I was like, I'm gonna put one in.
Everybody's playing pickleball.
Everyone likes
I played
pickleball.
Yesterday.
Did you actually?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
well, we'll have to
yesterday.
come out here and play then sometime.
Yeah, absolutely.
This one we had to kind of gut. And it's literally like the size of a hotel room.
Oh my gosh. Yeah,
but I turned this into a furnished rental. And normally, I think beforehand when we bought this, it was getting like $800 a month. I think if I wanted to just rent this out on a 12-month lease with the renovation, I'd probably get like $1,200, but I'm getting $1,500 a month-to-month furnished rental.
Wow.
And we haven't even advertised it yet, and it's not even finished. I already had somebody book it for August. There is a mom who called for her son who's doing an internship at the hospital.
Oh, wow.
Because you got Dell Children's right there, so it's just a perfect location for...
That's awesome.
Furnished can generate more income than a non-furnished for the right unit type. I mean, it just really depends what you're going for. Like, I probably wouldn't furnish a 2-bedroom here because we're already trying to get $2,000 a month or more for our 2 bedrooms here, and I don't know if there's a big market for people paying $3,000 a month for a 2-bedroom. But a studio like this, somebody literally just needs a place to sleep while they're like in town for a month or 2 or 3, or doing an internship or a traveling nurse, and they'll pay $1,500 a month all day for something furnished. So, you know, for us, it just generates more revenue. I didn't even have this plan for this before we bought it. It was kind of after the fact. And now that we're seeing activity on this, even before we're marketing it, I'm actually gonna take a 1-bedroom where I normally would get $1,500. We go check out a 1-bedroom. I'd normally get $1,500 for that, not unfurnished. I think I get maybe $1,900 or $2,000 furnished for a 1-bedroom. So I'm gonna take one of those units and furnish it. Yeah, and try it out.
That's because you're here, right?
What's that?
That's because it's down right.
Yeah, just as a location. It's so close to downtown, the university, and then the hospital across the street is huge. I don't know what this is. Somebody obviously threw some furniture.
Got rid of their furniture?
Some furniture out here that's not supposed to be here. I'll move it later.
2 hours later.
Hey, it had a rager last night, man.
Yeah.
It's not a party till the couch is in the yard.
Well, it's so it's probably, we have like 3 original tenants left at the property, and I think their leases are up in a couple days, so they're starting to move out, and then pretty much it's all going to be just new residents at that point.
Did you re-siding or did you just paint?
New siding.
New siding.
Yeah, good question.
Looks nice.
We actually redid the siding, but we kept the stone. All the stone was already here, obviously.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't want to get rid of that.
I think that was 70,000. And then I'll show you in a minute, but that was the laundry room. We're going to convert that into a sauna.
Oh, really?
Yes. And then this is going to be a big deck where this blue outline kind of is. This whole thing is about to be in like 2 weeks. And then Sunday, I have the pool being installed.
Is there a pool going there?
So we got it's a ranch pool. You know the stock tank pools, the metal ones?
Yeah.
So I got a 10-foot, heated and filtered and everything. And it's going to go right in the middle on an elevated part of the deck, and then the rest of this deck is like lower.
No kidding.
And a bunch of lounge furniture. And then I'm going to get a wall-mounted kind of metal awning, like that comes off the wall there, and that'll be like a covered portion of this outdoor space.
Nice.
The city adopted a new building code for pools last year. The idea was to put in the pool, and then these codes got adopted like kind of in the same time frame. To put a pool in, we had to actually put in a male restroom, a female restroom with 2 stalls each, and a baby changing room, and it's just there's nowhere to put that here, and I'm not going to spend that. The pool is already going to be like $120,000, so this whole setup I'm going to spend about $15,000 on the deck. I'll probably spend about $4,000 on the awning. The pool was only $3,000.
Okay.
With all that, maybe $5,000 with the heater.
Yeah.
So we'll spend less than $50,000 with furniture on this space now. And I don't have to go through the permitting process because it's not technically a pool. It's just like a little
above ground
plunge. Yeah.
When you're underwriting a deal like this, how do you gauge? Okay, I'm going to spend $120,000 on this setup. How do you gauge the fact that, or is it all based off of comps? How you know how that's worth it?
It's just
right?
it's not even there's not even a science to it. It's like, what do I think this property could be creatively? And what type of tenants do I want to attract? Okay, do I attract tenants to get a certain rent? I have to have certain amenities to compete with other properties or stand out. And so there literally is no secret. There's no secret sauce or science to it. It's just I think a pool would be really cool here. It's going to attract tenants. It's going to look good. It's going to give the residents a cool place to hang out. I think it'll help me get the rents I want to achieve. With stuff like this, that's not cookie cutter, right? You go and you buy cookie cutter apartments and you just do your little 8,000 unit renovation or whatever. I mean, that's different than. This to me was a transformation project. Like we totally changed this property in its entirety. This was way different before. I mean, look at this. I'll show you an old one right after this, but we took out kind of these, I don't know what you call those, like these boxes that kind of hang down and they had the cabinets in them.
Oh, okay.
And then we put the waterfall countertops, all new appliances, backsplash.
So did you have to put venting in above that, or was it already up in there somewhere?
There was venting, so we kind of had to reroute it to there.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, Kyle. Yeah, we had to reroute it, and then they've got HVAC, new bathroom, pretty big bedrooms.
Yeah.
And then we put laundry in every unit.
Oh, wow.
So that's what allows me to kind of convert the laundry room to
that's a
to the
great
sauna.
idea.
Yeah. I have a theory on laundry too, and this will be important for you, Brett, as you're looking at deals. I think like the generation is now shifting because it used to be people were very used to like in C-class apartments, common area laundry facilities, shared laundry.
Yep.
And now, obviously, probably starting in like 2000 or the 90s, they stopped building properties like that. Everything had laundry hookups at that point going forward. And nowadays, I don't think anyone builds anything without laundry in the unit. Mm-hmm. So at some point, properties that don't have laundry will become obsolete, and they'll never exceed a certain rent level. So almost every property I'm buying now, we're putting laundry in every unit if it doesn't have it. Because I feel like if I'm going to hold it 5 or 10 years, it's going to be obsolete and my rents will be capped. Mm-hmm. This is about a $32,000 renovation on this. Yeah. Wow. Which is more than my original budget. So we went over our budget, but I feel like it's worth it for hitting that rent long term. It's trial and error. Like we get into the unit and I have a budget already and a bid for the project, and then you get into it and it's like, oh, okay, well. I can show you in another unit, but they had that box here that had the electrical in it. And, something we kind of missed on the bid is, probably $400 or $500 to move that electrical and put the switches over here. So that's one thing. And then you get into it and it's like, do you want to build the box around the fridge or do you want to just leave it freestanding with no cabinet above it? And I'm like, well, it's a couple $100, but I think it's going to be a nice addition. It's going to make the kitchen look really nice.
So I think part of what allowed you to do all this and what you're doing out here in the back was that $200 million neighbor. Right?
Yes,
'Cause
exactly.
You know you're going to pull some of those people, so he knows long term. It's a really smart move. Like, if, depending on where you are, you couldn't always do this. You couldn't just, oh, it was 32 grand. Be like, we've got 12 grand. How are we going to make it work?
Yeah, you're right.
So those places that don't have all this, I'm sure
no, you're
that's
totally
what's
right.
allowing you to do it. Yeah.
It's location dependent, and this is an A-class location next to Mueller, where we were just at getting coffee, which you saw is just booming.
Yeah.
Right by the highway, 10 minutes to downtown. So when you're in an A-class location with a C-class asset, you can kind of push the bar a little bit. You know, I'll never hit their rents, which for this size unit, they're going for probably $2,200 a month. So I'm still $700 below them, but I don't have all the amenities that they have.
Yeah.
The interiors, though, honestly, besides maybe the ceiling height and the construction, like comparable finishes. But you'll
get close.
Yeah.
You'll get close.
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
exactly.
I think that goes back to what I was saying outside. It's like, because what you just talked about, reason you bumped it from 24 to 32, it's that the space for creativity.
Oh, yeah.
Based on the deal, you know what
Yeah.
I'm saying?
And you have to experiment. Like I said, like we're gonna cut some of these things, but this was the first one we did. So you know, we're just kind of experimenting and seeing what can we rent them for and what makes sense. And you really don't know on a property that's new until you get into it and try it out. So I'm doing a couple, like the 2 bedrooms. I have a $1,900, a $2,000, and a $2,200 2-bedroom that we did different levels of renovation on to kind of test out what we're seeing.
You've done a lot of deals, so you're comfortable with testing things like this. Like, oh shit, I'm gonna bump my renovation budget by $8,000, no problem. For me, for you, it's like, oh, I already know.
We'd be like, hell no.
As a beginner, right? Like, how do you account for that shit? How are you, you know?
Well, when you're doing $1 million renovations too, and you know, sometimes that's $200,000-$300,000 difference in the budget. But that's why we have contingencies, and you know, we raise a little bit extra money to make sure we can do that.
The underwriting is that, you know,
always have a much bigger contingency than you think you need. Most people say 10%. I honestly think you should always do 20%, because you almost always end up spending more than you think. And there's all these things that come up that you don't expect to happen, right? Project takes a little longer, you need more reserves, like things like that. You know, especially on a property like this where we kind of vacated it. Because for me to lease to new tenants, honestly, I had to kind of change the tenant base and get most of those people out, because it was a really rough tenant base beforehand.
Which not everyone can afford to do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's another great topic.
You just budget it into the project though, right? So it's all in the numbers up front. We take into account that scenario, and we plan for the fact that there's gonna be vacancy. We need to pay the mortgage during those times, or that type of stuff. So this is kind of what, you see the light switches there.
Yeah.
So that was what cost a couple $100 to move the electrical.
Kid proof.
Yeah, exactly. So, so this is, this is what they were like before.
So this is what you were saying you moved.
Wow. Correct.
Yeah.
Yep. And on that one, we spent more on the drywall too, where we actually like removed a lot of the bad wood and stuff like this. Whereas on the next unit, we're actually just gonna texture it and paint it, and you really won't even notice these lines.
Yeah.
So that'll save probably another $2,000 or $3,000.
Yep.
So.
You're gonna keep the painting?
Oh yeah, that stays. Painting stays. Yeah, so you know, it's just your standard C-class, like hasn't been touched in years.
Yep.
You know.
How do then you approach a buyer or seller? I'm sorry, that you know you're gonna have to do all this, yet they want top dollar. It's like they're trying to sell you a brand new car with no engine and no tires and no seats. You
Correct.
Know, it's like,
it's all just.
Do they see the light on that, and do they ever realize?
No, it's, you know, I mean, yes, they do know they're not going to get maybe top dollar because of the condition this was in, but the location this was in, they got a good price. You know, we paid $150,000 a door for this, but again, if you know, for people watching, you know, it might sound like a lot for a C-class building, but if you saw this location, there's not a lot of places in Austin I would have paid this price for this same property.
Yeah.
And I honestly, I probably wouldn't have even bought this if it didn't have that land in the back where we put the pickleball court. This is just be on 51st Street right here. This is a primo location right across. We can see the hospital. It's a really busy road, so I got tons of street traffic. Visibility is great. And then like you can see over to the left, I mean, I have my next door neighbor is, you know, a couple $100 million, 370 unit building, Class A. There's about 8 other Class A big buildings going up around here. I mean, it's a $2 billion development here in Mueller over the last 10 years.
The entrance here?
Well, we paved it, and then we put the new fence in, and then these are gates, so we got to install the gate motors, and then those will be kind of automated and closed when you go in and out.
So you've really upped the character of this whole property, and people pay for character around here.
100%.
So
yeah.
The entrance, when you drive in, beautiful entrance, looks really nice.
New sign.
Yeah, I mean, you know the character will sell, and so
100%.
It's like
you're built into that.
Given this property the A-class characteristics,
Yep.
but it's a C-class property.
Correct.
See what I'm saying?
Yeah, correct. Exactly.
I think,
I would call it right now, like, I think it's like, it's an A location. It's probably like B plus if you're comparing it to like some of the other, stuff out there.
It's just another place where you can see like creativity coming into the project.
Oh yeah.
Rather than just, hey, buy the books.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, and to me,
numbers.
this is the only way to make it work was to really take it to this level, because they wanted $4 million for it, and I think I ended up buying it for 3.3. And just to make it work at that number, and I really wanted to buy this because of the location. Some assets, they won't make sense to most people. A lot of people might have seen this and been like, that, I'm not going to pay that price. It doesn't make sense. But this is an irreplaceable location.
Yep.
You can never replace this property, this piece of land. And I think I look at real estate a little differently from a lot of people, where it's not just like, some properties you buy and it's just like, this is an apartment deal, I don't really care about it, no emotions, this or that. Like, this is a property I would hold forever because I know what's going on in this area, and the dirt is probably honestly worth $2.5, $3 million alone. But yeah, this is a 2-bedroom, what we did with like kitchens and bathrooms.
Yeah.
Got laundry in the closet over here. So this one will be $2,000 a month.
It's nice flooring.
Thank you. I love the natural wood. It's like always what I
Yep.
go for is this light color natural wood.
Yep.
Some lighting,
Yes, exactly.
That's the wide plank stuff too. Very
Yeah.
nice.
Okay, so I've heard you say before that a lot of your, and this is going to contradict almost what I'm talking about, but a lot of your renovations and the way you underwrite is like, I almost do the same renovation plan with every property that I buy. I've heard you say like,
Okay.
and it might be more of a experience based, like I know what things cost versus like, no, I'm gonna make every property I own look the same.
Mm.
And so does that just come from experience, right? If somebody's never done this before, how do you determine?
I actually don't. I do different. Every property is different renovation, but I have done a lot of like higher end C to A conversions like this. Is like more transforming the property. I've done this one. I did it on a 14 unit. I did it on a 16 unit. So we've done a lot of these type, but I also do a lot of like, I'll buy a C-class building and it's not in an A-class area like this, and I'm not going to put 30,000 into a unit. I'm going to put 6,000 or 8,000 into a unit.
Yeah.
Or maybe just add laundry and put granite countertops and keep the rest old.
That's my next
and bump the
question.
rents $300. Is determined by the area you're in.
What
Right.
are the if you had three things
Yeah.
that if you're looking at value at, right?
Yeah.
And say, this is an exceptional property, right? In terms of like the ability to add value to it. But say you're in say if it's not a home run like this, right?
Yeah, your maybe suburban location is just an average
Normal,
spot.
Average. Okay, so what are if I'm an investor and I come in and the unit looks like the one that we just looked at,
Yeah.
but I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
What are the three things that add the most value to the property, right? Like
To the unit?
Yeah, or exactly
To get the rent bump. Well, yeah, I mean, as long as you're buying it where there's low in-place rents and there are comps, or you believe that area has the ability to achieve certain increased rents on that, then you're basically, your goal is to spend the least amount of money to get the highest rent increase.
Okay, so
right. So I could have gutted these units and done all the everything else, right, and maybe even gone higher end, but like I'm never gonna get more than probably $2,000, $2,200 for a 2-bedroom here, right? It's just that's just my cap. Mm-hmm. So what is the least amount of money I can spend to get that rent, and that's what you're gonna do. So in one of those areas, what you could do is maybe just put a cheap quartz or granite countertop, swap out the cabinets and do the flooring. Maybe you leave the shower and you don't do anything with it, bathtub, whatever it is. Maybe new vanity. I mean, just little things. And it's just, again, it's experimentation based on budget too. When you plug it all into Real Estate Lab and you've got your numbers all in there, we're seeing, what's our rent bump, and then how much can we spend per unit, and then does that increase our end ROI on the property? If I had at this property and I plugged in 50,000 a unit renovations, the numbers wouldn't work, right? So it's kind of finding that balance, and then what can I do with that budget to hit these rents, and does that holistically make sense? That whole equation that we're looking at. So it's kind of like a whole.
That flexibility comes with the underwriting a deal so conservatively that you give yourself that room. If I need to spend an extra $8,000 a unit, I can, because I've underwritten the deal so conservatively that I've built. Sometimes
it's a negative spending the extra $8,000. It's not always like, it's not always about. Sometimes you're over budget, right? Or it costs more than you thought it would. So it just kind of depends. And sometimes I actually do want to spend the extra money. Well, it's funny you ask those questions, because I think I have a mental block in my brain where I don't the fact that you're bringing this up, I don't think about any of those things. And maybe it's because and even when I started doing
he doesn't worry about it.
Yeah.
Because it's been 8 years of doing this. You and I were like, oh my God, no way, we can't do anything. We got to hit the numbers just right, or this thing's going to bust.
These are things I don't even think about. I'm like, this is a great property. I'm going to hit my rental increases. Yeah. I'm not counting every penny, because I'm going to achieve my rents or close to my rents. And I have low enough debt where I'm going to be able to refinance into a good loan and cash flow. And so I'm not bothered by if the unit costs a little bit more, because in the next one I'll cut back in certain areas,
but
right?
See, he knows.
Yeah.
He's in the back of his mind is figuring that all out.
Okay. Okay.
But I'm going to be honest though, even when I started, I did not worry over any of those things. I found a property. In real estate, you make money when you buy, right? That's everything. You make money when you buy. If I paid $4 million for this, it wouldn't have been a good project, because that's taking up a lot of my profit spread. If I paid 2.5, that would have been an insane deal. I paid 3.3, which to me, I ran my numbers. It's a really good deal. But in real estate, you make money when you buy, not when you sell.
Yep.
And the concept is, if you buy a property for the right price, you're going to do really well on it. So my whole focus in this industry in buying properties is buying the property at the right price. And so I don't sweat the little. Even when I started, it's like I have a renovation budget of $500,000 for a 100-unit property, whereas on this, I'm doing a 1.2 on a 21-unit property. So I get into that, and I start experimenting with that too, right? What do I do? Cabinets, floors, countertops. But you just have to do it, because until you just do it, you'll never know.
Okay, so that's my point. It's like your confidence is just based off of pure experience, but how do you?
No, that's what I was saying. Even when I started, I had zero experience. But you just have to do it. Like if you can put it into the model, which we spent years creating, right? And the numbers make sense. When you get into it, you don't worry about you've already done your rent comps. You know that you're going to be able to achieve your rents or close to your rents, right? Like, don't worry about if you're going a little bit over budget here or there. Like, you've got to get in and just with those type of things, at least experiment with the renovations and try it out.
Back to buying right? Like you were saying out there, even if
you have margin for error if you buy it right.
The dirt that
Correct.
This property is sitting on, long term will pay for everything that you.
Correct.
You know what I'm saying?
Correct.
So regardless of what happens.
Exactly.
If you buy right.
Correct.
So you need more cash from your investors coming in, knowing we're going to have $1 million or 800.
Exactly.
You're putting that in so no one's surprised. Right?
Yeah,
so
no one's surprised. And I've got a bucket of money just sitting on the side, because I know every time I've done 23, this is my 22nd project. And every time something happens and you spend more money than you anticipate, right? You save in some areas, and it doesn't mean, with what I was saying before, we still track every penny that we spend. We have a construction cost tracker, and we track every draw, every dollar that's spent. I mean, we watch the money going in and out and where it's going to. I fight with my contractors on a daily basis over pricing to get the best pricing on everything.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, this is a very easy business to overthink. Mm-hmm. And you do not want to overthink it, because then you'll never do anything. Like, focus on if the numbers look good and you're conservative and your assumptions are accurate in your opinion, then you have to just go head first and just and tackle it, because you're going to encounter problems. Things are going to take longer than you expected. You're going to spend more than you think. It's just going to happen.
Yep.
Right? But if that's too big of a worry, you're never going to do a deal. And that's a bigger problem, in my opinion, is not buying real estate.
Makes
you know,
sense.
than going a little bit over budget. So, yeah. What do you think? You like it?
Yeah, dude.